MPs back 169,000 signature petition to abolish the House of Lords. The petition, which calls for a referendum on the abolition of the House of Lords, was debated by MPs and received overwhelming support. Put before MPs today, the petition argued the unelected and unaccountable peers have a disproportionate amount of influence and power. The Conservative Party's vice-chairman for the London region Paul Scully declared the majority had supported the petitioner Robert McBride as he said it was the start of a campaign, not the end of it. Mr. Scully said, "I think he did carry a majority of the House out of this chamber of people wanting to abolish or at least go seriously further in reform." The Tory MP earlier argued the petition had been started out of a pure argument as he presented the case for some 169,000 people who had signed the petition at the time of the debate. He said, "I had a snatched conversation with Robert McBride about what motivated him to start the petition and it was very much of a pure argument. Even before the EU withdrawal bill came to this place, talking about how in this day and age there is no place for appointed members of a legislative body. I suspect a lot of the 169,000 people that have followed Rob's lead in this petition have been specifically motivated, because those signatures did come really quickly following the Lords' consideration of the EU withdrawal bill. I suspect a lot of people were really concerned how the Lords started to step, in my view as well, over its remit. It is just not appropriate for the upper house to be thwarting the will of the people, to be coming back and getting us to consider wrecking amendments on a bill that was clearly within our manifesto and a bill we need to get passed in timely fashion if we want to leave the EU in an orderly way." His words were echoed by backbencher David Davis, who told MPs, "As a Conservative, I say the Lords is an anachronism long overdue for reform and the hereditaries are an insult to a 21st century democracy. I say to any ministers who are listening, now is the time for a reformed and representative House of Lords with members who are there by merit and not by birth. Not only are the House of Lords unelected, they are an unelected body that still contains nearly 100 people who are still sitting there interfering in the legislation of this country simply because of an accident of birth, which I think is outrageous. They are also unanswerable to the people and they are unrepresentative." However, in a bid to remain balanced, Mr. Scully conceded the House of Lords were within their remit to discuss the government's Henry VII clauses, adding, "It may be uncomfortable for the government, it may be uncomfortable for some member like myself who voted to leave the EU, who really wants to get on with it now. But nonetheless the Lords does not exist for my comfort or the government's comfort. It actually exists to scrutinize legislation and bring it back hopefully in a better place than when they found it." Petitions lodged on Parliament's official website are considered for debate in Westminster after they reach 100,000 signatures. At 10,000 signature the government gives its response. Reacting to the petition reaching 10,000 signature, the government response said, "The government is committed to ensuring that the House of Lords continues to fulfill its constitutional role as a revising and scrutinizing chamber which respects the primacy of the House of Commons. As set out in the manifesto, the government is committed to ensuring that the House of Lords continues to fulfill its constitutional role as a revising and scrutinizing chamber which respects the primacy of the House of Commons. Whilst comprehensive reform is not a priority, the government will also continue to work to ensure that the House of Lords remains relevant and effective by addressing issues such as its size." The Lord Speaker's Committee on the Size of the House of Lords, chaired by Lord Burns, made recommendations in October 2017 on ways of reducing the size of the House without requiring legislation. In response, the Prime Minister has written to the Lord Speaker and agreed to continue with the restraint she has shown so far when making appointments to the House. It is incumbent on all sides of the House to consider what they can do to further promote the culture of retirement. In light of the Prime Minister's letter, the Lord Speaker has asked the committee to reconvene to consider next steps.